Good morning once again from sunny and beautiful Grand Island, New York. I'm Mike Shope. Welcome back under the ship chasing umbrella for another week. We are, I'm told, exactly 100 days from the NFL opener. Cowboys, Eagles. Plenty of time for your 5 or 10 or 150 best ball mania drafts. I've asked our heroes this week to send me their 5 most challenging, puzzling teams for fantasy. Actually, I asked Pat for backfields, but we'll make it work. There was some overlap in the choices, but not one team was picked by everybody. Of course, Risers and Fallers, that's our brand. And look at the elite tight end market and the trends there. With our heroes, Pat Crane, Davis Maddock, Jacob Sanderson, I'm Mike Shope. This is ADP Chasing, May 27th, 2025.
In Underdog Best Ball, ADP is set by 2 separate yet equally important groups. Streamers that set the market and the slappies that chase it. These are their stories.
Speaking of our brands as a team and individually, Davis has his yesterday's beverage ready to go. This very controversial topic from a couple of weeks back.
Unacceptable.
The worst part about this is I haven't had coffee yet. You'll hear, I'll do the pour later. I've got the big
French press.
But I haven't had coffee yet. So Davis is like kind of beating me by drinking. He's got caffeine in him from his yesterday's flat.
I've already had coffee too. You know, we're
I only had like
up.
this glass amount of cold brew remaining, and it's all gone now, and now I'm a little sad.
Yeah.
Here on the East Coast, we're well past coffee hour, but that's good. Memorial Day weekend, not a ton of news or anything, but we have mini camps, sort of this morning had the unfortunate thought, is a big injury coming? We really haven't had that yet. This season. Did I just speak that into existence, Pat? Is it my fault?
Hopefully not.
Goes
Hopefully
down
now I'm giving you a hard time.
Well, if you think about it, we haven't had
a lot of chaos. There's a lot of chaos. I don't mean injuries, even though I do.
We haven't had the big preseason injury either the last 2 years. We thought we had one. I guess Cooper Kupp last year, and Puka, but ADP never reacted to Puka, despite us being told in no uncertain terms that he was. Well, but we didn't know.
Yeah.
No, I know.
We
but
were being lied to.
Point. We had a couple that we actually got, and we're like, it's not a big deal.
It's no big deal that McCaffrey hasn't practiced in a month, dude. Everyone relax.
Why is he in Berlin?
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean the Puka one is crazy because Greg Rosenthal said on the ETR podcast, he was like, I would not be drafting Puka Nacua in my fantasy drafts, right? But then everyone was like, dude, he's fine. And then he basically was fine, which is crazy, is he went on IR and then was fine. How often does that happen, that a guy goes on IR and then is fine? That's pretty, I mean, you never really get that.
Oh, I remember the Puka thing very clearly because I was very, very, very strongly Puka over Cooper Kupp. And then, I remember, the first, 6 or I guess first 3 weeks of the season, there's everybody being like, if you drafted Puka, you're a fucking idiot. Clearly it was Cooper Kupp the whole time. And then, it obviously turned. So it was nice.
I love that everybody has a voice of the fan that they just do not see eye to eye with.
Yeah, and none of them are flattering. Nobody has a voice.
No one's flattering. Yeah.
Bro dropped
the most
his
annoying
most
voice they can come up
So
with.
Most
Jacob,
annoying voice you've got. That's it.
Have you guys
Mine
noticed
goes like
Jacob
this.
Gets more Canadian when he does his annoying voice? Jacob, when he does
he's more
annoying,
Canadian.
gets super Canadian, right?
Yeah, he leans into it. He leans.
But it's sort of
my
confusing.
Canadian is a little bit more like this.
Oh, so what did
Oh
you?
boy, there. Go hang around Andy and turn down to the local market to grab your beaver tail. That's a little bit more where if I'm trying to.
That seems pretty Canadian, yeah.
I could use a Canadian Bill Simmons at some point.
Have you done Canadian Bill Simmons?
I'll try to combine those. I don't think I
That
have.
would be pretty good.
Bill Simmons. I'll
It's in there somewhere.
This is a potential
I'll get in the
TikTok
lab.
avenue for you.
I'll get in the
You can go
lab
big
with
this way.
Canadian Bill Simmons.
So I used to have a good Simmons, but then my Simmons turned into me doing Pete as me. It blended. Like I used to have a good Simmons, and now it's gone.
Pete really changed your impression game.
My favorite thing is whenever I listen to you and Pete podcast, like the pyramid of Davis voices, where I'll just hear like actual Davis and then Pete doing Davis and then Davis doing Pete doing Davis. And it's like trying to keep track of which of those is happening at any given moment is hilarious.
Well, the Ship Chasing Discord had a good bit this morning that we should do the randomizer. I'm hosting as Pete doing me. Pete then doing me as Pete. We switched the roles doing the bits. It's a pretty interesting idea. Yeah.
I definitely
I
will.
like it.
Pat, what's your voice for? Oh, sure, 4 wide receivers in a row. That'll work. What does your average Joe sound like?
Yeah, why don't you just take 4 wide receivers? Yeah, it would be that. It would be we would, but the guy would be going.
Pat kind of goes like 90s, like making fun of someone.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I just take the best players? Why wouldn't I just take the best players? That's kind of the
A little bit more New York.
A little bit more New York. A little bit more like fucking idiot.
Well, let's get right to it. Fun first slide. With Gilbert Arenas and
today, apparently, as I learned on Ship Chasing. I just said people will be thrilled that we didn't discuss hockey today, as I learned on Ship Chasing.
Yeah, people in
the
chat were telling me to zone out and get ready for the hockey talk.
Yeah.
Not
much
much
5 minutes in the last Ship Chasing episode for me. Tune in. I'm like, can't wait to spend an hour and a half with my favorite podcast.
Well, listen, fair enough. But the sign on the door even says it. These are our stories. The guy flies across the country to go to Game 7 for his favorite team. I mean, we don't have favorite teams.
Guys, I thought we were doing a bit.
Flying from Vancouver to Toronto. You got to ask him about that loss. I mean, it was kind of not historic, but it was
Crane, I think I can get you back. Crane, I think I can get you back into the hockey talk here. I have just like a truly unbelievable stat.
I apologize.
This is not on me.
Stat that we survived without it.
I didn't have anything to do with it.
This is a like a Dallas Cowboys level streak. The Carolina Hurricanes are 0-16 in conference finals games over the did they win last night?
Last night, yeah.
I fell asleep. So they're 1-16.
They're 1-0.
Okay, that moment was worth all the hockey talk.
They're 1-16.
So good. Davis gives us step that it was invalidated last night because he fell asleep.
Because I fell asleep.
I did actually have the conversation.
1-16 is still pretty crazy.
With my wife about the hockey point, and I wondered how many NHL teams Pat could name, but let's not do that.
I'm now just picturing like the Hurricanes, like Michael
I think I could name
like 18 and fucking 1.
Fair amount.
Most
Penguins, Jazz, Hurricanes,
Jazz.
That's so good. Jazz is great.
No, what is the
Blues?
Blues.
It's a music. It's a genre in music.
Yeah, I knew it was jazz adjacent.
Adjacent.
I love Pat to like go to like a
Nights
blues bar.
And they're Nights, Las Vegas
in
Nights,
Chicago, and be like, "Hey, are you guys jazz adjacent?"
they would have to say yes.
I guess you're not jazz adjacent.
The Golden Knights,
sir.
The Golden Knights. To be fair.
The Golden Knights. Yeah.
Give it to him.
Golden Knights. Did I say Penguins?
Now, Pat, the Golden Knights are sort of this unbelievable
Rangers.
Story in economics, too, which is like it's kind of a fascinating case study for expansion teams that maybe the NFL should study if they're ever going to do it. But neither
Rays. No, that's the baseball.
That's baseball.
I'm out. I could probably do a couple more, but I'm going to start to have to mix in baseball teams a little more aggressively as we go. So I think we can move on.
The Blue Jays.
Blue Jays.
There has to be a Tigers in at least one of these sports.
Pat, they had a whole team that did not have a name their first season this last year. They were just the
Devil Rays. The Devil Rays, by the way.
No,
that's baseball.
That's mixing
baseball.
up two things. That's a defunct team.
That's also no longer their name. They're just the Rays.
Right.
They're just the Rays?
They're just
the
Rays.
So this is the funny thing is it used to be the Toronto Blue Jays and the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. And then the Blue Jays became just the Jays. And then the Blue Jays went back to being the Blue Jays, but then the Devil Rays went back to just being the Rays.
Wasn't the New Jersey Devils a thing?
Yes.
Yeah, they are.
That's still a
but
thing.
they don't have any.
Okay,
Rays.
that's what I added the Rays. See,
Devils.
I told you I'm going to start mixing up with baseball, but
This
That's
whole
good.
show.
David Putty famously was a New Jersey Devils fan and
All
wore entirely scary devil mask because he's got to support the team.
Well, I got the Devils then.
Yeah.
This whole show will be, what about Luther
Someone
Burden? And then
missed
Pat
what
yells
he
out
was
Twins.
thinking about hockey.
Pat's just going to be yelling out names of baseball teams he
From the
can think of.
Northeast, no less.
Oh,
Oh,
Pirates. Wait, we were talking about Jordan Mason.
Well, Delaware's
I just thought of a baseball
Delaware's-
team. I had to say it.
Delaware's never had a hockey team, right?
Well, they've never had any teams. All they have is just like LLCs.
come on, man. Don't do Delaware exactly accurately. LLC is such a good burn. Damn it.
That would be
Yeah,
their
we're-
team
we're
name if they ever
basically-
got a hockey team. The Delaware LLCs.
Delaware's teams are in Philly and Baltimore. That's where Delaware's, or in DC, depending on what part
the
of Delaware.
Dover favorable tax laws for corporations.
I'm not saying it's good for the overall, but I think my
Be the
job
Wilmington,
here
but yeah.
is for this to not happen. I think what I'm supposed to be here for is for this to not happen.
That's
so,
correct.
again, let me try it.
All right,
The
let's get
first
on football.
slide, was it the weekend of Bully QB? We've got Pat. We've got Gilbert Arenas. I mean, what a way to start. Quote start. We're 12 minutes in. Audio listeners, here he is on the left, Daily Rojo himself. He loves his Drake Maye. People are talking about it. Still happening. And then Gilbert Arenas. What is happening here? He thought he's in these drafts and he starts Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. Like what's going on?
Points, bro. Quarterback scored those points.
So he obviously some portion of his 1099 contractor agreement gets paid out in underdog site credit. He's probably sitting there with however much, 5 figures, maybe 6 figures of site credit. I really couldn't say. And said, oh, there's this tournament, $2 million is the first. I'd like to get the most projected points. Obviously, that's how you win, right? By getting the most points. He does his default rankings by projected points, presses the plane. Adios. That's it. That's all I need, right? And so it's literally that simple. Very funny.
It's funny. He's not drafting. He's just organizing by points and letting it, bleed.
Would you say that he's an unsophisticated auto drafter?
I would say that he is
sounds right.
about I would say unsophisticated auto drafting. Yeah,
by the
that
way,
is exactly how I would describe it.
That team on the right, I mentioned the quarterbacks who are shown. It's 4 quarterbacks and 5 tight ends. Then after that, and then no running backs or receivers.
Because if you sort by projected points, as the chat is pointing out, this will be a thing that you would note. Your tight ends are actually getting projected for more points than De'Ami Brown or Adam Thielen or whomstever.
No, but he's drafted 5 tight ends to start
by the 9th round.
I mean,
he doesn't have a running back or receiver yet, so he's not.
Maybe literally in his app he accidentally clicked the tight end tab instead of the wide receiver tab when he was clicking all the rankings, or like his personal assistant who's doing this. Like I think
he might just be dicking around in the app. He might have his phone out.
I promise you, he's not drafting these. I promise you,
I'm not.
He's auto drafting.
I think it'd be way more fun if he is.
Yeah, me too.
That's true.
That didn't happen.
I love the idea that Gilbert Arenas was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do some phone shit and underdog draft.
Yeah, I could see him phone shit. Yeah, I don't think he's using the sidekick, looking at this team, but he might be.
I don't think we have to worry about real-time assistance.
But I think he might be on the phone.
It is. John Rotorod had the best take about this, but it is very funny that like within 2 weeks we had everybody furious that best ball was dead because of real-time assistance, and then now best ball is dead because Gilbert Arenas
is killing your draft.
And it's like these can't both be true. Like you can't be like, oh, these guys are drafting too good of teams. I don't have any edge. Like, oh, this guy just drafted 4 quarterbacks. I'm gonna build a super team because I got Brian Thomas at pick 15.
No, I'm fucked.
There's another new voice, by the way. There's another new voice.
Yeah.
What gets a draft canceled? Like,
this would get a draft canceled if it wasn't Gilbert Arenas, I would say.
No chance. Also clearly a misunderstanding. Like Pat, you're definitely wrong, because the key thing that happens with canceled drafts is if there are too little projected points, like if you start taking like Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt in the 6th round, and then that honestly might even fly. What doesn't fly is if you have like 14 guys who are like UFL players. That is going to trigger a draft to get canceled. Like you have an entire roster of projected zeros, but it's pretty clear.
You don't think they're doing anything positionally? Like your running back 1 is
no,
and your wide receiver 1 is like you have like literally no projected points at running back or wide receiver. Seems bad.
Like if they started to cancel drafts for having no projected points at running backs, we would have a lot of.
I was gonna say the ship chasing community would be.
We'd all be screwed.
Like if you look at his teams,
we'd be locked out of our accounts.
All of our accounts are suspended.
The ADP drafts are just not that. Like the ADP of the picks are not. They're just not that far of a spread. They're really just really shitty auto drafted teams. Like they look weird, but there's nothing about it that it's going to project for like 10th in the pod in week 1. You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing about it that would be cancelable.
I mean, taking all 4 of the elite quarterbacks and then drafting 5 straight tight ends.
How many times
seems pretty bad.
How many times did Gritty get a draft canceled? He was like doing this on purpose last year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I actually don't know what gets a draft canceled very well. So you may very well be right that this is totally fine as far as the canceling rules go.
In the Discord all the time referencing, it feels like anyway, their canceled drafts. I've only ever been in one. That I remember getting
I've had a few canceled, and I bet
you've had more than you think, Show. I bet there's been ones that you like just mysteriously disappeared on you without being aware.
That feels good.
There's 2 things going on here. The first being that I believe, based on my anecdotal experience, that they have widened the gap of what they consider a cancelable team. This is true in battle royales, and this is true in I did 270 big board drafts, and I think the only ones that got canceled were the day of the Super Bowl, the Chiefs Eagles one.
Yeah, those got canceled. Yeah.
Where like Justin Watson was going in the 7th round, right? But I mean, even in BRs, I've like the 2-game BRs, I've noticed that the band of things that are quote unquote allowed or not tossed out has gotten a little bit wider, which frankly, I think really the only reason the draft should be thrown out, and this is a general rule, I'm not saying that this is unilaterally true, would be obvious collusion, right?
Yeah.
Or a team of 16 undrafted players. You know,
that's really more what it. Yeah, you're right. That's what gets teams thrown out, because that's kind of the collusion element. That's how you do collusion,
right?
Is you come in and you just draft a bunch of stinkers. You draft some 18th round picks in the early round, so a guy can get a much better pick.
Like I remember the last draft I was in that was canceled for sure was one of the big board drafts where a guy got sniped on Zay Flowers. It was just very funny. He got sniped on Zay Flowers with Lamar, like in a totally normal way. Like Zay Flowers was like a 4th round pick, and he lost his mind and started taking, like Ronald Jones or whatever in round 5.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
come on.
it was top of mind.
Yeah,
and that one.
Delaware, the LLC has got professional LLCs, and Ronald Jones gets draft canceled. You guys are killing me this morning.
Yeah. But I remember that was the last one I remember being tossed out. But
Jazz adjacent.
Well, sometimes what'll happen is it'll be during a streamed draft. This is my experiences. It'll be during a stream draft, and then a person will start doing this, and then you'll remind them that they can get their account banned for purposely throwing drafts because it's happened, and they realize the person doing this tilting is like, oh, I don't want my account banned. Let me go back to drafting.
Right.
Normal. Yeah.
Credit to Zach Lenars once again for, what a great job here with the 2 poses, like perfectly mirrored. How could you do better than that with that Arenas pose versus Pat?
It really is good. I've got a pour and I've got a question. So here's the pour.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
That hits you right where you want to get it.
Is that a pour or is that porn?
Pour.
Well, it depends on how much you like the pour, I guess.
I think it's more ASMR than porn.
Fair. That's fair.
the question is, should taking Drake Maye with Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott get your draft toss? Discuss amongst yourselves.
I do have questions on like the taking Dak 17 picks ahead of ADP just to take Drake Maye exactly at ADP later.
Dak was
It's a
doubled.
Lamb team, no doubt.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he was
Lamb
doubled.
Pickens.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
How much
Romulus.
May are you into this year? Last year it was the
Pretty
the
good
running
amount.
theme.
Enough to take him directly at ADP without any stack partners on a Kyler Dak team. So I'm thinking that's pretty into him.
Pretty into Drake Maye. Yeah,
Yeah.
I am more into the 3 quarterback builds this year than I have been. We're gonna have some stuff on that soon, but this was mostly me just loving Drake Maye. I do recall because I did like a ton of puppies yesterday. I only got in like 50 total, but I was just slamming them yesterday. And so I was multi-tabling for this one, but I do recall coming back to this team and being like, I'm a little thin at running back now. kind of wish I had a running back around 124, let's say. But yeah, so I took my medicine here.
We've probably all been in drafts, maybe like most drafts, where you get to that range and you hate everybody else. Like you just don't want any of the running backs. You don't want any of those receivers. So like
that's why I have 33%
this.
Bayshell Tootin, because I get there and I'm just like,
Davis,
matter?
And yet you don't have the highest Bayshell Tootin percentage on this podcast.
I'm not going to have the
definitely
highest
don't.
percentage of any player, because by the end I'm going to have 8.3% of every
No.
player in the player pool.
Yeah, I'm the opposite, actually. It's funny that Davis has gone that way. I've gone completely the opposite way. I used to always, even when I had rankings, I've never drafted with my rankings set. I would always draft off the ADP. I've changed that this year. I now draft exclusively off of my rankings, which at first I was doing just to sort of like force me to keep tinkering with my rankings,
test
to
them and
make
stuff,
them
yeah.
better, which has been helpful. I tinker with them like every day, but also it's meant that I just don't see 80 of the players in the player pool. So I will have way higher percentages, which is like kind of what I actually want. But like
that's an issue.
I'm currently like 35% or higher on like 10.
So I'm having an issue with that too. There are just some guys I literally never see. Like I just don't.
I don't think that's an issue. I don't want to see players I don't want to draft.
Well, when the players that you don't draft are literally the record-breaking highest ADP advance rate players in the history of fantasy
I don't
football,
think like that. I believe
it's a
in
bit
myself.
of an issue. I don't believe it. Based on what evidence, man? This panel right here, these three of bro, I advanced 7% of my teams last year. There's very little evidence for self-belief, Jacob. Sometimes you got to take it on the chin and have a little bit of humility.
Are you a band called Chumbawamba, Davis?
I am, of course.
Right, like sometimes you get knocked down.
It's one slate, buddy. Again. Just one slate. We've had better slates. My thing with like the 10 player, like over the years, I've tended to be much more likely to regret like my medium stands than my big stands. So like if I have a guy that I think I should have like 30% of, I'm like rarely like, what was I thinking? Because I've put a lot of thought into it. And even if it's wrong, I'm like, it's rare that I kind of like sleptwalk my way to something like that. But I have sleptwalk my way a little bit to like 23, 24% type stuff, which is where I
have a really
trying to
good
refine
example of that right now, Karain. I have a sleepwalking percentage of 23% of Roschon Johnson right now.
There you go.
Because
it's he's an easy click. He's an easy click.
I was gonna say it's totally defensible, right? Like clear running back 2, an offense we expect to be good. He should play some passing downs. He should get some goal line stuff, but he can also be sent to like literal turbo nuclear 0 by like J.K. Dobbins just showing up in Chicago.
I'm actually very comfortable with my 32% of Roschon Johnson.
No, it's fine. I mean, look, sometimes you sleepwalk, right? And then you wake up and you're like making a sandwich. And you're like, oh, sick. And then you eat the sandwich. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to, but wake up and check what you're doing. And
fair enough. Yeah.
And sometimes you sleepwalk and you're my uncle once told his future brother-in-law that he was going to kill him as he was sleepwalking. And the brother-in-law had come home for the weekend and didn't know anyone would be in his room. So that can happen too. So you might
That's
want
how I
to.
felt. That's how I felt when I looked at my 35% Luther Burden, and then I got the notification that he had a soft tissue injury. That I felt like my nephew is in grave danger.
Yeah. So sleepwalking can go a couple of different ways. It's good to just wake up and check out what's going on.
What a delivery. So that can happen too. Your uncle can tell your brother-in-law he's about to die. That can happen too.
You guys want to know how little faith I have? I only have 18.5% of Xavier Worthy.
Wow.
Yeah, I have 0.0, but
you're not taking Worthy?
I've taken
way
him
too fast,
once
dude.
In a puppy one. So I have a bunch of puppy slows. I only,
Worthy doesn't seem like a player you're typically fading. Talk me through it.
Well, first of all, I have to make time in my life to go on various dates to find a woman to live with and listen to new pornographers. So I can only fast draft BBMs. I just slow draft the puppies. So there's some worthies in there.
You're saying you auto drafted him? Is that what you're telling me?
No. I'm saying I have taken Worthy. It just hasn't hit my exposures yet.
Got it.
But no, we've had the Worthy discussion before. I don't think.
Yeah, you plug a 4.2140 into Jacob's model,
and I want like 35% Travis Hunter. So I take him ahead of Xavier Worthy every single time, and then if I also want like 35% of Breece Hall, so I take him.
Yeah, well, that's the name I was hoping you were going to say.
You can just take Breece and Worthy together.
If I ever want,
though.
But I take Breece and Hunter together in like most of my drafts, and then if I ever don't want to take Hunter for some reason, I will prioritize Tet. And
35% Travis Hunter is like flying the slappy flag. Like it's like approaching you're on your ship approaching the coast and you're trying to signal to someone your intentions and you just slap up the 35% Hunter exposure and they're like, all right, we know exactly what we're dealing with right here.
35% Hunter is like the slappy like guitar guy from from Mad Max on the truck.
It's like if someone ever asked me now, like define slappy, I'll be like, just show me your De'Ami Brown and your Travis Hunter exposures, and I can tell you exactly who you are.
Buddy, I currently have 42% Bishal Tootin, 32% Trevor Lawrence, 32% Travis Hunter, and 14% De'Ami Brown.
Duval.
Yeah, you made all
I'm gonna win Duval the money.
Yes. He's got his Colts. It's Jacob. He's got his Colts with it.
Jacob is going to be the world's number one Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence hater when in week 4, Hunter is running 17% of the routes with 2 end-arounds per game, and Travis Etienne is averaging 3.7 yards per carry on 22 touches a game.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, you're right. This is how Jacob's getting his Colts. He can't draft the Colts directly, so there has to be bringbacks on massive Jacksonville exposure.
That's true.
Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
And I do. I have
Liam Cohen is a Morton Joe. Jacob, a war boy. Yeah. Oh God. All right.
35% Hunter is that like even if you. The band of outcomes doesn't contain enough I like Travis Hunter. I'm totally fine with this being a pro Travis Hunter show. There's just I don't see the volume. I think he's gonna have some crazy spikes.
Why
like
he just is volume. They're gonna throw like 650 passes, and there's 2 players that are good enough to catch any of them. They play at a high pace. They're gonna have a high pass rate. I know that people don't like Trevor Lawrence. This is like I just am a massive and always have been a Trevor Lawrence believer. And I'm very willing to just like ride or die with Trevor in a good situation this year. And if Trevor just isn't good, then I have just been like wrong about Trevor Lawrence for 4 years, and I can like fully accept
honestly
the consequences of that.
I think the 35% Hunter drafters are going to be like fist pumping him matching Xavier Worthy stats from last year. That's my truth serum.
Yeah, I think if Travis Hunter has 1.51 yards per route run, I would be pretty surprised.
No, his yards per route run will be better because he's going to
run a lot of routes. I just think, like, personally, and this is like, obviously there's a wide range of outcomes. It's like actually very easy to figure out how like this loses me my best ball season.
Yeah, that's the part that I have a little trouble with Hunter, is that like you can pretty easily see why.
But we're all gonna lose anyway. Like this, like that just doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean, in the fourth round.
That's such a good point, Jacob. We are
like, to me, like I like, this is why I take a high stand on guys. Like, I would rather just like have the fewest number of things that I need to get right for me to have an awesome season. So it's like I understand that, like, if Hunter is a massive bust, like my season's over. But like I know that if Hunter and Breece Hall are awesome, then like I will have an awesome season. And I would rather just bet on those two things happening, and then we'll see where the cards fall.
The thing is they're only awesome is if there are other round 4, round 3 players that do not outscore them weeks 15 through 17.
Yeah, fair. But I mean, that's a big.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you have big edges in like terms of structure and building teams that are actually like built to win the tournament and stuff. So it's not like, I feel like you're resorting to, you know, like a player take thing that you don't have to. If you're like, well, my season just rests on, you know, this 3rd and 4th round pick. Like,
I think that's probably
it doesn't have to rest on that
than it's been in years past. I think a huge portion of the field is just building their teams correctly in terms of exposures and balancing week 17 and everything.
I guess you're not paying attention to the Gilbert Arenas discourse.
No,
yeah, I mean,
no, I'm instead
like,
paying attention
the whole
to all
RTA stuff has very much like influenced me to take larger stands on player
That's
stuff.
fair.
For sure.
That's fair.
As long as there's not too much of an overreaction to the running back, you know, crushes from last year, I think I would agree with that overall. Risers, ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
It would be interesting to see, like, in August when the more like casual groups come in, how high the running back ADP gets.
Mm-hmm.
I am
at the top of the list today.
Veterans, yeah.
Christian McCaffrey, 13% from pick 12-ish to pick 10. Also listed Jameson Williams, George Pickens. These are the risers. 3 backup running backs we'll talk about in some more detail in a little bit. Jaylen Wright, Will Shipley, Justice Hill. Then Ricky Pearsall, Josh Downs, and Travis Etienne. Here we go. Like, that is a player that people had said enough already going into the 10th round and are willing to take that chance more than even a week ago.
Yeah, well, Tootin fumbled once in practice, so, you know, got to reevaluate.
That's right.
I have an admission. I in the puppy that is currently closed, I'm in like 50 slows or whatever. When I had a back half pick, like 7 through 12 or whatever, I just took McCaffrey every time because I'm pretty sure McCaffrey is going to get to the Bijan Gibbs range by like July 1st. So I was just like, let me just get a good amount of these bags packed now, and then I can do more normal exposures on that later.
I think that's probably right. The McCaffrey thing scares me. Like, we've seen similar things. Like last year, for instance, with Cop, was a player that, like, it became apparent he was going to rise, but I thought he was a very bad pick at his opening price, so I just didn't care how much he rose because, like, I was like, zero worked for me. And I've always been, this is like more than I think you guys, like, I acknowledge your point. It won't change how I draft, but I acknowledge your point that maybe I should have fewer 35% stands on players. I actually totally disagree on the idea of the exposure blanket. Like, I actually, like, I'm very comfortable with zeroing players. So like with Cup, I didn't care. With McCaffrey, it's a little bit more dangerous. I do like totally see how he beats me, and I think it's pretty likely. So I probably would like to just like squeeze in as much now as I can, because I don't think I'm going to want to draft him if he gets into like the 6-7 range. But
yeah, I could easily see him getting there. That's where he should go probably if, you know, things proceed like they look like they're going to. So
yeah,
McCaffrey or Jeanty.
McCaffrey will flip Jeanty. I think most likely will flip Jeanty. Yeah.
That's the thing where like I do like Jeanty more. I have him ranked higher, but I have taken McCaffrey ahead of Jeanty a couple times just because I do think he's going to flip him.
The problem that I'm having with McCaffrey and Jeanty is that like I think I just want Puka and Neighbors and Amon-Ra and Nico like at a pretty high clip. And so as like with both of those guys, I used to just slam Jeanty when he was anytime in the late first. Right. And then McCaffrey, I never quite got there in terms of like the drafting behavior where I was like truly slamming him, but I mentally was like, it's time to slam McCaffrey. But now that they're moving up a bit, it's like, it's not that they shouldn't move up, but I'm just like looking at the draft landscape, and I'm gonna have an article out on my draft plan this week. I just really want the first round receiver in a lot of cases.
Might that have something to do with a certain running back that you like 3/4 turn?
Yeah, it does. And I specifically write about Breece Hall in the draft plan because he's like a big part. My whole thing is like I feel
very similarly to you.
What can I get later in the draft? Can I get like someone? Can I get someone who's good, like could be easily the top 5 at their position at running back? Like, yeah, like I have a bunch of options actually. And at receiver, it's like a little bit tougher, to see yourself like hitting on a top 5 receiver and running back if you go running back and then try to grab the receiver in like the 4th, 5th, or 6th. So,
and there's also Bowers there, Pat. You like in that same range?
Well, there isn't Bowers there now. He's in the middle of the 2nd, but he should be 206 there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. That's been the big thing I've been experiencing was that I actually like a lot of the running backs in like round 6 and 7 more than some of the receivers, but I've basically not been able to take them because I take a ton of Bowers. I have 42% Breece Hall currently. And so it's like,
more of that
then if I take McCaffrey and Bowers and Hall, like I kind of just like, it's like Trevion Henderson, like kind of can't join those teams. Like I can't really take, like, it's like,
I think he can.
Yeah. And I've done it on occasion. But it makes things a little bit more difficult.
It does. It's a little more comfortable, but I think he can be on those teams is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. So I've mixed in builds like that, but I've taken more of the receivers in 6, 7 than I actually want to. So I have tried to experiment with getting out ahead of that. And so sometimes I've just done it where I just load up on the running backs early. And other times I try to break ties to Neighbors or Nico or something, or Brian Thomas.
Yep. Yeah. This group of, cause like in the current environment, like last year, one of the big things that I took away was like, it was not a good idea to get like boxed into taking a bunch of Christian Kirk, like, oh, I gotta take a receiver.
Surely no one will regret 6th round Jakobi Meyers. I mean, just surely that's just like really good and prudent ways to use your hard-earned U.S. or Canadian dollars. I just can't see any possible way that goes wrong for anybody.
Or it is very tough to just accept 9.9 half PPR points per game in round 6.
Yeah, I mean, and there's guys in that range that are like Calvin Ridley. I the whole pre-draft period, I was like, this guy's going to go in the 5th round as soon as they draft Cam Ward number 1. I don't know why he's not going there now. And now he's going in the 5th round. He's got an ADP of 55.9. But like,
that's interesting. I haven't seen him in my app.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. Like, good for you because he's not. I don't think he's a bad pick. Like. Yeah. And if you're in a position where you need receiver, like you might as well get it done and take Calvin Ridley. Like, don't punt receiver. But like, is he going to outscore the running backs there? Is he going to outscore Joe Mixon on the season? Is he going to outscore RJ Harvey in the playoffs? Like,
not going to happen.
Just take the running back. Like that's there's a couple different spots.
Well, when you start doing that, it gets tricky pretty quick because the running back.
Well, haven't you heard that the optimal is 0 wide receivers through 7, Davis? So
But that to me only makes receiver more important in round 1.
Yes.
That is the answer. The answer is literally that the most important players in the entire pool are the top 8 wide receivers in the pool, and frankly, I expect one of the best advanced rate structures for the entire year to be wide receiver in the 1st round, 3 straight running backs, and then not picking a wide receiver again until 5 or 6.
When you realize that Travis Hunter is going to average 27 points per game in the playoffs, then your wide receivers you're just getting that in round
I'm
4.
I'm interstellar window yelling at you right now, but like in real time, like without the time delay. Like I'm like you're
I
actually
understand why you guys are
You're just
against
yelling
this
at him?
take. Like I understand why YouTube commenters and Twitter commenters hate me for this. Like I expect that. But like I thought you guys had like a little bit of like gumption in your life and a little bit of like
you were
optimism and joy
sadly
about
I mean,
one of the most elite talents to ever enter the NFL coming into this incredible environment. Like, come on, have a little fun in your life.
I'm taking Tet, man. If I'm gonna take receiver Breece Hall there, give me Tet. Tet McMillan was the 8th overall pick and is like also in an awesome situation for just getting immediate target volume and can like easily spike down the stretch. Like I like Hunter
too.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't see how, because you've got like 35%. Is it a 3-player turn for you?
Yeah, that's literally
okay.
3-player turn. That's correct.
Yeah.
By the way, let's not let it be forgotten how Pat earlier, just a minute ago, used his mocking voice on himself in the Christian Kirk example. Oh, I guess.
I'm not safe from the mocking voice.
You got to use it on yourself.
Yeah, past me has made some mistakes.
I just think it's so obvious how
Not
Travis
currently,
Hunter
though.
fails that I don't want to have more than
It's
like
also very
13%.
obvious how he succeeds. Like how he succeeds is he just shows up and he's Odell Beckham Jr. and then
I actually think it's less obvious.
Offense.
I think it's pretty like self-evident how less obvious it is that he's no ability to ascend to the top target, a la CeeDee Lamb, a la Justin Jefferson. You know what a good comp for his rookie year.
I think it's actually pretty easy to see him ascending to the top target. Like he could just be one of the best talents in the National Football League from the start. He was the 2nd overall pick who a team traded a 1st-round pick for. He was one of the best players in college football history.
He's not better than BTJ. He's just not.
He could have a much higher targets per route run, in part because he's not going to run all the routes.
I was going to say it's a lot easier as Marvin.
But like, why isn't he going to run all the routes? Like, if he just shows up,
he's going to play cornerback too.
He's going to play cornerback.
He's also going to play cornerback.
But that's going to last for as long as it makes sense.
No, he's going to play cornerback too. Like
he'll play some corner.
That the trade up is why he's going to play cornerback. Like you don't trade up. Like he was not nearly as good of a prospect as like Malik Neighbors or Marvin Harrison.
Well, we had this discussion like in like January, and I just disagree. I think he is as good of a prospect as these guys.
Thomas wasn't.
Either. So what would be the case? Like analytically, there's like no case that he's as good as those.
Yeah,
guys.
I mean analytically, I think his stats analytically are very underrated by the context of the offense that he was in. How many 4 wide receiver sets they ran? How many like gimmicky screens he's just standing there watching dudes. But like, so I don't like really care that. I think it's just in terms of the draft capital that he received, draft capital he was always going to receive, the film on him that I think is pretty unbelievable, how he moves as an athlete, what he was able to accomplish, and then just like embrace a little bit of the fact that this is like an incredibly unique unicorn who played both sides of the ball, was one of the best players in college football on both sides of the ball. And just kind of like, if you just zoom out and think about like what kind of dude is humanly capable of achieving these things, and do I want to be on the side betting on this unicorn or against this unicorn? And I just like will always want to be on the side of betting on the built different Hall of Fame members.
Jacob, I'll tell you this: if I had not been beaten down into a state of submission last year, I'd totally be with you. But that was the experience I had, so I can't do it. But you're clearly, your position is moral and just. And if I was taking the philosophically correct position towards this activity, I would be with you, but I am a coward and weak.
You're spooked.
Well, look, I mean, I believe Hunter is my highest owned, or if not very, very close to my highest owned guy in the big board. There's like this argument was one I was making when he was in the 6th and 7th. I think when he comes up to the 3-4 turn, you do have to, like, I am embracing him as a unicorn, but that comes with he's going to play cornerback. Like they traded up to number 2 because he's going to play both sides of the ball. And so when I'm looking at his rookie season production, is it a worthwhile mega stand at the 3-4 turn, to be on a guy who I would say is pretty unlikely to like be running 90% of the routes at any point this season? You know, in some ways it limits the ceiling a little bit. It's not that he like can't be a better target earner than Thomas, but like they don't need him to be the clear-cut number one in the offense. They can get something out of him by playing him less on offense, which it just like never happens for other receivers. Like the fact that they can limit him on offense and get more out of him as a player is just, it's not ideal. And at some point I want to like keep that in mind.
I just want to be clear. I have 17% of Travis Hunter, so it's not like I think he's a bad pick. But obviously part of that is self-selecting because Worthy is right there.
Guys, I mean, all the takes here are correct. We just don't know what they're going to do. We have to find out what they're going to do.
We just don't know.
We just don't know what they're going to do.
The last thing I'll say on the Hunter thing is I just think that people consistently discount how correlated it is, what his route rate will be, and how good he is. Like, if he is not that exceptional, then I agree with what you're saying about the route rate. If he comes out in week 1 and has 7 catches for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns, I don't think that they're going to be like, well, let's keep his route rate down. Like, they're going
I'm with you there.
This is a good point.
So to me, it's just like, if he is one of the 10 best wide receivers in the NFL, then he's going to run a fuck ton of routes. And so I'm just betting that he is.
It's just right, a huge
and I don't like, it's sort of like the how right do you have to be to win the bet thing. And it's like, I just, when he starts to come up and it's like him versus Tet McMillan, do I need Tet McMillan to be one of the 10 best wide receivers in the NFL to win the bet? Like, I don't. I think you kind of need
any wide receiver 25th. To be one of the 10 best wide receivers to win a bet. Because like otherwise it's just
Tet
can score way less points than the running backs.
Tet can Kelvin Benjamin his way to 13.2 points per game in the back half of the season.
Yeah, I'm talking about, is he going to be drafted like 10th in a you know, he's the wide receiver 10 where we blow up the NFL and everyone redrafts. That's different than can he score like the the 10th best wide receiver in the NFL, right? Because guys who are like the 30th, 40th best receiver in the right situation can score like that. So that's where I mean, like, do I need Tet to be this incredible talent, or is the situation good enough and he's doing it down the stretch and he's good? It's not that he's bad, but he's just not like a true superstar, and I can still win. I think I can at this price. So, you know, it's about the price for me. I'm at 14% Hunter as well. So this isn't a guy I'm like fading. It's just the mega stand that I'm you know,
I mean, I probably won't actually finish at 35. I'm guessing I'll end up somewhere between 25 to 30 is probably where I'm going to be. But I mean, well, that's if he stays at the current price. I actually think he will move down. I don't really worry about stuff like that because then I just get to draft him in different combinations.
Right, you have different combos.
So I do think he probably will move down, and then my exposure might get even higher. But I take a lot of Tet as well. I'm actually only 9% Tet, but I'll probably decline my
rookie numbers
a little bit exclusively to get Tet a little bit higher. I don't know. I think that
I'm 33 Tet. That's my guy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair. Yeah. Then all right. Well, then we're just gonna end up doing basically the same thing.
One of us is gonna have a great year.
I mean, it sounds like we could. It sounds like we might both have. It sounds like we're both gonna be.
If Brees has a good year, we're having a good year.
We're arguing about this. It sounds like our plan at the 3-4 turn is not that different. It sounds like
it's rookie wide receiver Brees,
a lot of one rookie wide receiver, and a little less of the other rookie wide receiver.
Arguing about 6% differences is kind of the core tenet of this show.
Sounds like it's basically the same plan with one.
Yeah, it is. But you're
I'm trying to get us back. They will be on the same field week 1. That'll be fun. I mean, probably literally, if McMillan is going against Hunter and there's that contested ball, we'll have a lot of takes in the opener. Carolina at Jacksonville. Quickly, any of the other receivers here
to win this bet. He shuts down Tet and then he goes and scores a touchdown.
Right. Any of the other receivers on the risers worth a quick mention here? Jameson Williams, George Pickens, Ricky Pearsall, Josh Downs. I keep hearing the same thing on Downs, which I like. I'm in on him just because he's good and the price is pretty cheap. So happy to draft Downs.
Downs is a great pick. I still think Downs is like at least 10 picks undervalued, maybe more like 15.
36% Josh Downs.
Good.
Yeah, he's
with your Jags. Sure.
Josh Downs is just suffering from like we can't perfectly picture how it's going to happen, you know, and that's fine. We don't need to know the exact details of how Josh Downs score points this year. He's good.
I do have to just concede to Davis. I mean, I think that you're wrong, and he won't be a good pick at this price. But clearly, your argument on Jameson Williams was incredibly convincing because this is 2 straight weeks of him on the Risers list. So.
I mean,
I don't know.
Jameson Williams actually, like, I'm pretty scared of every decision I'm making this year. Like, all I see is how
I'm aware.
I just like, how could Jameson Williams possibly let me down other than like doing a 9-leg FanDuel parlay from the.
You mean the guy with a
trading
career high of
facility
90
game?
targets? Yeah, I don't see how that goes badly in round.
Nah, you'll be fine.
I just like, I feel, I don't know, man. I just feel cool, calm, and collected when I click the button on Jameson
The thing
Williams.
with the Jameson Williams, it
He's like
reminds me.
Travis Hunter, who's all right.
It reminds me of the DJ Moore debate from a couple years ago, where like DJ Moore, and I was on the pro DJ Moore side, but it's like DJ Moore can't pay off this ADP. And, you know, Leone was right. Like, he wasn't able to pay it off, except he had a 50 burger and had a couple awesome games. So he like also easily, like, he was a terrible season long guy who got there like huge and was actually like a pretty solid best ball pick. So it reminds me a little bit of that. It reminds me a little bit of Gabe Davis, the year that Gabe Davis was irrationally high.
Putting
Yeah.
Gabe Davis and
reminds me of
Jameson,
Gabe Davis.
Really
no,
does. Yeah.
banned.
But you know
Man,
what? Gabe
he
Davis
needs-
spiked a few times that year, and the
No,
rest of the round was
Gabe
such a
Davis
disaster.
was
He
a
was an okay
frickin'
pick.
Touchdown merchant, 4th round pick.
I have some news
Absolutely
for you.
not. Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
Davis.
No.
None of this sounds like Jameson Williams to me.
No. This is a 1st round pick, dude. This is a guy we left for dead. Like, you know how many times
What was the rule about when you say someone's a 1st round pick in their 4th year, they're turbo dog shit?
No. It's when a guy changes teams. It's the Kyer Elam rule. It's when it's Kyer Elam, former
Jahan
former
Dotson was a
pick.
first round pick. Should we draft him?
Jahan Dotson has never been for 1 second what Jameson Williams has been on the football
That's
field.
true.
These guys are not comparable players in any way. Not draft capital.
What's your
not play
Kadarius Toney
type.
position?
Young Joka.
Right. Just has to mature.
Treylon Burks is just dying to break out.
Jalen Burks.
You guys, I refuse to allow. Actually, if he's efficient, he'll get the ball more to be a pro ETN thing, and then for Jacob on the other side of his mouth to say it's actually bad that Jameson Williams is so efficient.
Where did
Sorry.
ETN come
Hunter.
in?
I literally don't even know that my brain. Like, I'm
Jags.
stroking out right now doing
I
this
see.
argument. Hunter.
Yeah.
Yep.
I will do. You know what? I'll do this. I will offer you a wager right now, Jacob. $50 American dollars. Jameson Williams.
Hunter
I will
versus
offer.
Jameson?
I will offer you either. You can either have points per game or total points, or I will even offer you weeks 15, 16, and 17 total points. You can have any of those 3 terms.
Yeah, well, I will go with points per game because I think that reduces my variance the most, but I'm quite sure.
Minimum 10 games.
Minimum 10 games. Sounds
Sure.
great.
Booked. Put it on the board.
Awesome.
Minimum 10 games of playing offense or just playing football? That might be important.
if he's active in coverage, it does.
Yeah.
It does count.
You might want a minimum route rate. You might want to throw that in there.
No, we're good. We're good.
Next slide is a look at the backup running backs who are highlighted here. Jaylen Wright, Will Shipley, and Justice Hill, all on the Risers list. Shipley is a Pat Corain last call product from maybe the very first week of our contest at the end of the show each week. And really nothing has changed for the worse there.
No, nothing.
No.
He's a straight backup.
Yeah.
These are all fine picks.
Jaylen Wright, I think we're sleeping on Mr. Wright. The only way we're not sleeping on him is if you're a big Alexander Madison guy.
I don't think you have to be a big
guy?
Alexander Madison guy. The answer can be Alexander Madison, and I don't know. There's certain guys every year where I'm like, well, there's no way I could have known that would happen.
We're saying in this analogy, Raheem Mostert is Jason Giambi, and some portion of Jaylen Wright, Ollie Gordon, and Alexander Madison are recreating.
The only problem is he's Alexander Madison.
So Wright has a couple things. First, he could just be Mostert, right? It's definitely possible. 2,
For sure.
he could be the handcuff running back to a 186-pound player who has been injured every single year of his career, right? And then 3, the whole market is just a little bit down on the Dolphins based on their offensive line to like weirdness. Right. And I think we're kind of all, other than Tyreek, we're all kind of saying we expect positive regression. Like if the Dolphins are the 9th best offense in the NFL, Jaylen Wright is like a giga mega smash. Like potential best pick on the board, actually.
So my thing with Wright is that like that's where you kind of lose me a bit because he wasn't good last year. He wasn't. He didn't awful. Have a. So
but
he was.
A-Chain was bad too. A-Chain was bad too, efficiency wise.
Yeah, but like A-Chain was getting all the work, right? So it's like that tells you something about the talent differential that the team thinks they have there. He wasn't. Was he a 3rd round pick? It's not like he has a ton of draft capital behind him. So he was
a 4th, season, but they traded a 3rd of a future year to draft him in the 4th.
Okay, so day 3 guy.
It was the Woody Marks trade, basically.
Right. Yeah. Bad as a rookie, more of an early down guy than someone who can work in as a receiver. And then they draft like another early down hammer type in Ollie Gordon. They've got Madison. Like I was taking some Jaylen Wright earlier, but like the check-in I had was like, is this the RB2? Because if it's not, what am I doing? Like, I don't think this guy's good. And he really doesn't have much of a moat to a guy like Alexander Madison. Like Alexander Madison could easily be the running back 2 here. We've seen Madison be trusted by coaching staffs like repeatedly, even though he's not good. Yeah. So that's where we ended up. We're behind on him now, but it's just because I'm like, I need the info. I think this is one of those guys I need the info on. Is he the running back 2?
Yeah. My concern too is that I think that he is probably the team's preference to be the RB2 because he's the one that they invested the most in. And obviously they liked him at least at some point in time. But we've seen spots like this where this type of player might start camp as the RB2, might even start the season as the RB2, but does not finish the year as the RB2. Like I remember the year that like Eno Benjamin was finally the RB2. And then we were right. And then he had like one really good week. And then eventually they were like, actually, no, like he's no.
I think off the field stuff with him though. He was good enough.
I remember there was another example of like Chris Evans was the RB2. He was getting really early reports that he was clearly the RB2. And then like I think he had like
I don't think we ever even had those
in the off season. And then it was like T. Ryan took over the spot, and I don't know. I just get, unless I see something very concrete. Like right now, all we have is the coach speak where they said his name first, and someone in the chat already said this, but like they asked him a question about Jaylen Wright, and then his answer to the question specifically about Jaylen Wright said Jalen's name first, and then named all of the other running backs.
It's actually
so like it was not as bullish as I think people think that it was. It was like It was like, what do you think? I forgot what the question was, but it's basically like, what's in store for Jaylen Wright this year? And they were like, yeah, Jaylen and Devon are going to have
what's in store is
and then, like,
Alexander
also
Madison.
All the other guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really keen observation because we've gotten to a point where we're, coach speak, index, everything we're listening to, we're reading the quotes, but it is important to also sometimes know the question because without knowing the question, it's not necessarily that indicative. The answer is not necessarily indicative of anything. But that might be an example where it is. All right. I can never click on Justice Hill because I like Keaton Mitchell too much.
I like Justice Hill because he serves a specific purpose that I often need in my running back rooms, which is like one guy who I know what his role is going to be. Because I take a lot of like the DJ Giddens. I take like obviously Bishal Tootin on every single team. I take a lot of Trevion Henderson. So it's nice for me to have like one guy at the very end of my draft who I know has like a reasonable chance of getting me 11 points starting in week 1. And I feel like his role is very secure. But he's a specific use case. There's teams where I don't think he makes any sense on.
Yeah. I think he strikes me as more of like a redraft type of guy where like for the exact use case you said, where like you're just like plugging him in week 1 and then you're like, oh God, like I gotta figure this out soon. You're gonna be scraping waiver wires and stuff to find running backs. But given the pricing on running backs earlier that we talked about, like I'm tending to build teams that are I'm getting my chaperones a little earlier, basically. I think there's a number of ways to play that. Like you can do it with, Mixons and the Breeses and those guys. So I think, I've never really been a Mixon guy, but the price is pretty good for trying to do advance rate stuff. But then you also have you got Chuba, you got Kenneth Walker, into the 6th, into the 7th, into the 8th, you can build those chaperone type of plays out. So I haven't really been on Hill, but I probably will be in redraft.
Let's move on to Fallers. Sorry to lose you there for a minute. Brock Bowers on top of this list with a still small change, but it's, of course, early draft capital. Same with Nico Collins and Brian Thomas. At first, I thought maybe that was Mike Leone and Justin Herzig, but I'm told it's Brock Bowers. And
Rob that's bearish.
Hi, Mike. Travis Hunter.
This is I call this list the we're all trying to find the guy who did this, and it's Michael Leone going, in the hot dog suit. He's like, why does no one like rookies? Why does no one like players who are 23 years old? And I mean, we all knew what was going to happen, right? I mean, the contest opens. Everyone's like, dude, if I don't get Amari Hampton right now, I'm going to die. And then by May 15th, you're like, I don't know, man. Najee Harris, dude, they're paying him a lot of money. Harbaugh, I mean, it's at all of these guys. It's absolutely classic.
Yeah,
Hunter, Collins,
Brock Bowers. Let's see how that goes for you guys.
Brian Thomas, Caleb Williams, Omarion Hampton, Devin Neal, Dylan Sampson, and Luther Burden. Speaking of rookies, that fills out the list. Is there anything significant? Well, maybe Davis just said it all. Is there anything significant to any of those changes between pick 11 and 16?
Collins and Thomas are following specifically because McCaffrey is rising.
Right.
Those that's a direct consequence of the McCaffrey rise. I don't think that really says anything about Collins or Thomas.
Nothing.
Burden got injured. And is also rookie. So that's a double fade. Hunter ran routes people didn't like on Twitter, and he's also a slappy player, and all of the slappy players are falling slightly right now.
Yeah.
Which I think is also what's affecting Brock Bowers. Is you get the slappies are a little bit more diluted in the pool, and now you get the people that are like a tight end, the 1-2 turn. Oh heavens. And so it's nice because initially, just it wouldn't matter if Brock Bowers' ADP was the 101. There's just not any world in which I was ever going to have less than 10% Brock Bowers. But when it opened, it was very difficult to be if I want to have a massively overexposed Bowers position, do I have to take him ahead of Brian Thomas on occasion?
Right.
Do I have to take him ahead of
I was doing that
now, and I was doing it, and I don't regret it. But now it's great. I can just take him I don't have to reach for him. I have never once felt remotely conflicted about taking him ahead of AJ Brown or Ladd or Achane. So if that's all I have to do to get 15-20%, rock on. I think Brock Bowers is legitimately just Amon-Ra St. Brown with the tight end designation. So I don't really understand why he's going significantly behind him, but works for me.
How many players do you think had more receptions than Brock Bowers last year?
One.
Probably 2.
2. Jamar Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Did you know that Brock Bowers receiving yards season?
Sorry?
Oh, no, you play fun facts first. Then
he had more receiving yards than Ladd McConkey. So you want to talk about rookie, and who had a better situation? Ladd McConkey with 0 target competition in Justin Herbert, or Brock Bowers, who had to play with Desmond Ridder in week 15.
Well, Bowers didn't really have target competition either.
Bowers had Jakobi Meyers.
It's better than
enough already. It's I can't go anywhere without people.
No, Jakobi Meyers is a good targeter. I know that you don't want to believe it. I know you don't want to acknowledge reality because he runs too slow for you. But he earns 24% of the targets everywhere he goes.
Jakobi Meyers is like Juju Smith-Schuster's transition period. Between being
that's what the Patriots thought, and look what happened to them.
No, Jakobi Meyers can play. He's been good every single season he's been in the league. He's not amazing, but for a rookie tight end or a rookie in general, I'm comparing him to Quentin Johnston, man. I'm comparing him to Josh Palmer. This dude is clearly better than what Ladd McConkey had to compete with for targets. And then at the same time, he's getting targeted by Aiden O'Connell at best, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ridder. Like it was, and it's an Luke Getsy offense. And
you don't even have to care if he's good. It's 129 targets last year. The point was competition, and it was 129 targets, Myers, whether he's good or not.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Like what Bowers did last year is actually crazy. And now the situation, he gets Geno Smith, like one of the best quarterbacks for a guy who gets targets underneath and, in shallow, like yak, like this dude just fed JSN. It's the JSN bet with tight end eligibility. He's in a Chip Kelly offense. We know they're going to run a ton of plays. Like it's Pete Carroll, who's like a program builder. Like this stuff, it's all moving in the right direction for this guy. And we're like, I don't know. Elite tight end hasn't worked the last couple years, so not going to take him. Okay. Like I truly like this is one of the best picks we've ever had access to. Like this dude is an insane pick right now. Second year player coming off the best rookie season of all time at his position. And everything in the offseason upgraded him. And he's falling to the middle of the second round. Like, holy shit.
It is like, I haven't heard a single anti-Bowers argument that makes any sense to me whatsoever. I would love to hear one that like makes even the slightest shred of rationality for me, but it is so strange. Like he had his rookie season last year, 153 targets, 112 receptions, 1194, 5 touchdowns. And again, with the worst quarterback situation in the NFL and a complete joke offensive coordinator, like Puka Nakua's rookie season had 6 more targets, 7 fewer receptions, did have about 280 more yards and 1 more touchdown. And that was one of the best rookie wide receiver seasons of all time. They play functionally the same position. Like Bowers is an F wide receiver who has tight end eligibility. Like him, Puka, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Godwin, like these guys all basically play the same position in an offense. He has more receptions in his rookie season than A.J. Brown has ever had in any season of his career. If you're looking at guys that go like right next to each other. And it's like, okay, do you think that potentially a little bit more yards per reception efficiency and touchdowns is possible going from Aiden O'Connell and Minshew and Ridder to Geno and Luke Getsy to Chip Kelly? It's like, seems like the answer is like, to me, obviously, yes. Like, yes, he can get a little bit more yards per reception, a little bit more touchdowns. So it's absolutely stunning to me. And I also find like anytime it's about the receivers, it's like, oh, Brian Thomas going into year 2, Neighbors going into year 2, Ladd going into year 2, Marvin Harrison going into year 2. We're always projecting year 2 growth for young players, as we should. But for whatever reason, tight end, it's like, I don't know, man. Like if he does what he did last year, it's not going to pay off. It's like, well, one, I'm not actually that sure about that. And 2, like, why is it he's the only player that has no ability to progress as a talent going into year 2? Like, it's wild to me.
People are saying any of these things.
Yeah, that's why he's falling.
He's on the Fallers list.
It's hardly a change in the McCaffrey point.
This is a pretty big change, actually. That like when you're talking about him versus Nico and Brian Thomas to now where you're talking about him versus AJ Brown. Like I think that's a pretty big difference. And just a clear cut. Like give me Bowers over Brown, London, McConkey, Achane. Like this, that's not close. That's not close.
Did someone in the chat point out that it's the blue, it's the tight end? That's the whole thing. I mean, I appreciate you guys are hearing these sort of quote criticisms of Bowers, but
the comment section is like full of like, can't wait to hear the excuses when Bowers has 180 points this year. All these 0% Bowers. Good luck. Gonna be wild when Geno turns Jacoby into his JSN instead. Like all this is just like Bowers. The entire comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's LaPorta. I think LaPorta. Let's talk LaPorta quickly because I think that's for like. It is funny that probably yes. The answer is people are snake bitten by LaPorta. LaPorta and Pitts have scared people. I mean, I would compare it more to closer to Pitts, where he had a really good rookie season. They did draft Drake London though, where he's got Jack Besh coming in, but there is a rookie receiver coming in. He's coming off the really good rookie season, so.
There's
not
a new
like
white wide receiver tight end hybrid in town, brother.
there's a new F in town. So I suppose, it's definitely possible that Bowers is not as good as I'm thinking. But I'm getting like we're trying to draft guys who can win the season, who can be like true league winners. And like yes, Pitts didn't work out in his second season. But Pitts went above this, I'm pretty sure, didn't he? Am I crazy? I don't remember.
No, he didn't. He
About
went
the
at
same.
the 2-3 turn. But he also played a very different position than Bowers. He's also like I obviously took too much Pitts that year, but like his rookie season was nothing compared to Brock Bowers' rookie season. Like
it was 1,000 yards.
It was 1,000 yards. I don't think he scored.
It was 1,000
One-
yards.
One touchdown in London
I think he
against
had,
the
like,
Jets, and
maybe
he was
50
covered by a defensive lineman.
And he probably had like what 60 receptions, 65 receptions. Like it wasn't
Maybe
close to the amount of volume that Bowers earned.
Was he 2021? I'll pull it up right now.
Like I'm guessing it was like 64 receptions or something.
He had 68 receptions. So he had like half the receptions for 1,026 yards and a touchdown.
And with Bowers, like
still pretty good rookie
deployment.
season.
pretty good.
Looking at from a deployment perspective, the only elite tight end who really has similar deployment is Travis Kelce. He's the one that's closest in terms of the role he plays in an offense. Like Pitts was like a weird mix of playing Y tight end and X wide receiver. LaPorta, comes off the line sometimes, but Brown is really that F wide receiver, like St. Brown, and LaPorta plays a little bit more in line. Like,
LaPorta's the one.
Role.
LaPorta's the one where, like, at the time, I didn't want to fade LaPorta, but I did, in part because I was drafting Kelce and drafting other elite tight ends. But
I did last year too.
I faded LaPorta. I thought LaPorta was overpriced because he, like, the archetype of the elite tight end is that he's the number one wide receiver on his team with tight end eligibility. Like that's the guys who have been truly dominant. And LaPorta wasn't that and isn't that. But Bowers is. Like Bowers was immediately the number one wide receiver on his team ahead of, a professional wide receiver, maybe not a great wide receiver, but a professional wide receiver in Jakobi Meyers. And now he enters year 2. So you get the year 2 upside. We could easily be taking Bowers in the top 5 picks next year. Like it could seem like a no-brainer.
On
FFPC, so the idea that there's no room to run from here,
he is top 5.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
On FFPC, he is top 5 almost always.
Yeah, well, he should be the 101 on FFPC.
He should be the 101 undisputed. If we're doing the ship chasing drafts this summer, like anytime that we have the opportunity to select Brock Bowers, I'm a vote for Brock Bowers.
You're not gonna get any argument from me. Me and you are both gonna be playing the guitar on the front of.
I was gonna say if Hunter is the guitar guy. I mean, what is Bowers is above Hunter on the slappy list. I
tweeted out my dream 4-pick sequence that I do in like 25% of my drafts, which is just Neighbors, Bowers, Brees, Hunter, which is just like the ultimate slappy 4 start. And it's
Neighbors, Bowers, Brees, Hunter is some serious slapping. Yeah, you're a slap in the base.
Slap in the base.
Slap in the base.
This slide on the elite tight ends, Bowers,
dedicated to the memory of Sam Sherman,
McBride, Kittle, and LaPorta. McBride end of 2, fine, I think. Kittle early 5th, and LaPorta late 6th. With tight end, what I'm finding in my drafts is I'm always ending up with at least 3. I get near the end, even if it's Hunter Henry, Gesicki, guys like that, to tack on, whether that's for a stack or whatever. Ingram, Njoku, Tyler Warren, guys in the middle make sense. Just feel like I'd rather have, in general, the bulk at the position, but nothing against, at least Bowers and McBride. But I'm not ending up with Kittle or LaPorta hardly at all.
So I end up with a shit ton of Kittle. I have 39% George Kittle. I have 21% Brock Bowers. I have 14% Trey McBride. So that's close to 100% right there combined. It's 74. I only have 3% LaPorta. I'm probably going to start taking a little less McBride. I do like him a lot in a vacuum, but you wind up like basically always able to get Kittle at the first turn. And I definitely feel like the gap between Kittle and the running backs and wide receivers at 4 or 5 in my ranks is much bigger than McBride versus the 2-3 wide receivers and running backs.
Okay.
Like a lot of the guys there.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably want to shift. I still want to be at or slightly above market on McBride, but I can't have that big of a position. But Bowers and Kittle are going to be big stands for me for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little torn on McBride because I like Harrison. So it's, he's got risk of like not being what I just said I want, the true number one on his team with tight end eligibility. But he basically was that last year, and he was a great pick without scoring any touchdowns. And Matt Irby had a piece for Legendary Upside identifying him as a pretty clear regression candidate in terms of the touchdown scoring. We're like so confident that like these guys who don't score touchdowns aren't going to score touchdowns, except like one of the guys we were confident about last year, James Cook, led the position in rushing touchdowns. So like we know it's like fluky and tough to predict, but like it's kind of crazy like how tough to predict it is. Like this guy gets a lot of targets. He's quarterback's favorite target last year. It's very likely that he gets touchdown regression. And I think compared to Kittle, like Kittle is a spike week bet, right? McBride is like he's a wide receiver you're playing at tight end every week. I think they were a little bit different in terms of the archetype. Kittle is one of my favorite picks on the board, so I'm not like him in the 5th round is a no-brainer. But I'm struggling a little bit more with like how to split it because I also really want McBride.
So have you done any teams where you take both? I have.
Bowers and McBride.
I don't know.
No. McBride and
Kittle
and
McBride.
McBride and Kittle.
It's just so slappy, dude. Like it's just like, what are you like? Truly, what are you hoping for, man? Jakob,
well,
you're
hoping for ping ponging with tight end weeks, and you're looking at McBride, and you're looking, this is a 150 target, 100 reception player. Like, what's really the difference between Trey McBride and Rashee Rice? Like, it's not that big of a difference.
What's really the difference between Trey McBride? And
You thought you were
Rice?
going to win Davis with that?
Trey McBride
I draft a lot of Rashee Rice.
All right.
Okay, he's going at the same turn as Marvin Harrison, and Trey McBride's like going to score more half PPR points than Marvin Harrison. Like that's going to happen, and they're going at the same turn.
They probably play the same amount now.
Probably true. Yeah, Marvin Harrison's competing with Tip Ryman for tight end too.
All right, here's a good fantasy.
Why? I'll take out the hate. Like it's at least very plausible, if not likely, that Trey McBride outscores Marvin Harrison in half PPR points per game. They're going at the same turn. So like I don't really get why you can't take him and then take Kittle, and one of them goes in your flex a lot of the time, and you can also ping pong spike weeks. Like I don't really see why that's not viable. But
because McBride is a PPR merchant. Trey McBride, this will be a good activity for everyone. Since 2008 to 2024, how many touchdowns for Trey McBride in organized professional football game?
I couldn't care less. I've never cared less about anything
not
about the historical rate of touchdown scoring. Like someone got into this fight with me about Olave I just like don't care. I don't care at all.
What's the number, Davis?
Jeanty said he was going to run 100 yards and
16
and 20 touchdowns because he knows how many yards he can get because that's sticky. But Jeanty understands that there's a range between 10 and 20 touchdowns because touchdowns are highly variant.
The other thing is like, you're saying he's like a PPR merchant. Like that would imply to me that he's not an efficient yardage producer, but he is. He's 2.03 yards per route run in 2023 and 2.14 last year. That's really
Trey McBride is the
tight
Charizard of Dalton Kincaid's.
Here we go.
What?
No, man.
Give me a break.
No. This like, dude, this is the easiest fantasy analysis we ever have to do. Give me a guy who consistently earns targets, who consistently produces yards on his targets, and hasn't scored touchdowns in 2 years. Like, this is like 2001 level fantasy analysis. Like, oh, touchdowns are not sticky. These other stats are. Maybe we should bet on this guy who's really good and just hasn't been in the end zone in a while. Like, we can't do this. We can't fall prey to the easiest fantasy analysis ever and just miss it. Like, come on. Like,
So, like, among all wide receivers and tight ends last year, Trey McBride ranked 26th in yards per route run, ranked 4th in receptions, ranked 11th in yards. So, like, if he was just a wide receiver, I don't totally get why he would be mispriced at the 2-3 turn. And, like, to me, the argument against tight ends that has been, I still don't really think proven when you talk about playoff effects in 1 week tournaments.
Right.
But what has been,
which is kind of the whole point of it.
What has been legitimately borne out, at least over the aggregate of a full season in best ball scoring, is that, yeah, you probably don't want to take tight ends who will score fewer points than wide receivers and then justify it on the basis of scarcity. I still think you kind of can when we're talking about playoff weeks, but over the full season, that's been proven pretty true. But now it seems like people are trying to go the opposite way, where they're saying, actually, even if they're going to score the same amount of points, I just want the wide receiver anyway. And I don't really think that that's borne out in anything. So, like, I don't, if Trey McBride just changed his positional to wide receiver, he would be totally fine. Like, you know who else is a PPR merchant? Rashee Rice, who I will draft like 25 to 30% of this year. But, like, he is also a player who is going to average 10 to 12 yards per reception, rack up 150 targets, and score 8 touchdowns. Like, I don't understand really what's the difference between these two players.
Yeah. By the way, this is going to haunt me forever. I took Truth Serum one day, and I did question it once, but I was overweight on McBride. Okay, slightly. I took more Mark Andrews.
One difference for me is that I don't like maybe as the as Jakob said, the options at the 2-3 turn maybe as much as you do, Jakob, or in general. Like, I don't really want to be drafting T. Higgins or Jacobs. So I have a lot of McBride for that reason too.
Yeah, I think he's much better than the wide. Like, to me, wide receiver kind of hits a tier after Ladd McConkey. So now
I agree with that. But McBride is a fine pick, by the way. But slapping those two together, I think, is bad.
Slapping them together is not my favorite thing either. I think the thing I'm maybe going to try to do with McBride is push him to the third, like, a little more to try to get more Kittle, but there's something.
What's the difference though between, because, like, the guys who go at the 2-3 turn just go in any order. There is, like,
right.
T. McBride or Wilson. Yeah. Like, it like literally does not matter.
It's honestly just to try to get less McBride so that I can get more Kittle. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, McBride is a great pick, so that's why I struggle with it.
Let's skip the quarterbacks for this week, because another, key thing is that we get to the subject that we said we would, either in the in the tweet or in the open, and that was
I do have a hard out in 30 minutes also.
Well, we got 30 minutes to discuss the 5 most difficult to rank teams.
Yeah. Well, let's narrow it before we get to last call. I asked the guys, give me 5 teams that are maybe the most puzzling or, challenging. And again, like I mentioned at the beginning with Pat, I said backfields, but we were just talking about offenses. Doesn't matter. There were 4 teams that were mentioned by you 3 guys more than once. Dallas, Chicago, San Francisco, and Jacksonville. And we kind of already did Jacksonville, if not also San Francisco. But Dallas, like, if you knew the answers, wouldn't you love to know what that backfield split is? Will there definitely not be someone else brought in? I don't know. Like, that's who I guess maybe Pat and Davis mentioned. No, yeah, Pat and Davis both mentioned Dallas. So, right, Davis, what's the bottom line?
I mean, I feel with a degree of reasonable certainty that one of the 3 Cowboys running backs is going to be like an advanced rate supercharger in a way that, like, Rico Dowdle would have, like, I guess Dowdle kind of was last year, but got outscored by so many other running backs. I think
depends what your advance rate was heading to, like, week 13. How low was it? Was it as low as mine?
Right.
And then if you're, he was certainly a supercharger.
Well, what's funny is the Barkley drafter would have
great job of turning a lot of my 10th place teams into 6th place teams.
I was going to say
I was sweating the hell out of some Rico Dowdle, Joe Burrow teams in week 14. I'll tell you that.
The Barkley, Henry, Kamara drafters were taking Zeke, so they didn't get to get the benefit from the Rico points.
Yeah.
I would say right now, you made me absolutely bet my life on it. I think it's Javonte.
Oh God!
But that is like that's what I'm saying. I can't live like this. I can't live like that.
This is not the Davis that I agreed to podcast with. I'm
Now-
podcasting with like Fantasy Pros Jeff, who's just like out here like fucking counting up the box score, and it's like, who are you? What
Now,
happened? Who
my-
hurt you?
My
Tell
skin
me
in
on
the
this
game.
doll.
My skin in the game answer is I have 17% Jaden Blue, 4% Javonte, 1%
You're with that
Miles
guy?
Sanders. But
Yeah.
man, what is Jaden Blue's path? Because I wish Jaden Blue was Ollie Gordon, or I wish Jaden Blue was by Schultz.
Me too, man.
I wish it was a guy
DJ
I liked better.
Giddens.
DJ. Oh my
Giddens.
god!
I
If it
wish
was
the
Giddens,
Colts and
I think-
Cowboys just swapped running backs. Those two
I-
picks back to back.
It would actually be bad if it was DJ Giddens because I'd have so much
So
8th round
much.
Giddens.
Oh
Like
my
I
God,
would be,
yeah,
it would be an outrageously bad pick, and I would have a bag.
Even Martinez would have been good.
If it was
Yeah.
if it was Devin Neal, I would, for the first time ever, have drafted 40% of a player. I think if it was Devin Neal.
Devin Neal would be so fun.
I wish
That'd
that
be
it did,
so
just because
fun.
then you would have a little bit of joy in your life. Like I would see the twinkle in your eye again.
I have some twinkle in my eye when I take Brashard Smith in round 18. That's
Nice.
my
That's a
like,
fun one.
That's
Yeah.
the slappy allowance I'm giving.
go.
But I only do that because Reeves told me it was okay. Because Reeves was like these guys all suck, dude. You know, so just take Brashard
Yeah.
Smith.
On this show, when we talked about it maybe a month ago, Pat said maybe Sanders is the answer. And I think I probably have
That's
more.
kinda
I know
how
I
I
have more
feel.
Sanders than Williams. Jacob, you agree?
Yeah, I think Javonte is a really bad pick because I think he's a really bad player. And I just think like he got the entire role last year in Denver, and he wasn't worth this cost. And he was in a very good situation by an elite run blocking O-line, and he got the 5th most targets of any running back, and he did literally nothing with it. He had like one helpful game. So to me, it's like if the answer is Javonte, then the answer is nothing meaningful because I just don't see a path for Javonte to be more than like a 8th or 9th round pick value. So I just don't even care about Javonte. He's like off my board entirely. So the question is just like, is the answer someone else? If the answer is Miles Sanders, that's also probably not that valuable, but he's an 18th round pick.
Right.
So he has a much lower threshold to be valuable. So I'm pretty into that. And then with Blue, I'm like torn somewhere between, like I heard you guys argue about it on, I think it was Ship Chasing about Blue, kind of Davis and Pat going back and forth. And I'm somewhere between the two of you. Like I do think Blue is actually a good player, but just only in like a very hyper specific role. Like I think he is just like specifically good as like a Naheem Hines. And there's not that much more of a, there's only so much room to go above where he's drafted. That's particularly exciting. So I don't think it's quite the same level of upside that Dowdle was. I've taken the most of him in Sanders, but I do think that, frankly, this is why I didn't include Dallas on my list, is I think that the passing game is very not interesting. I think we all kind of know how it's going to go. And the running game, I think it's going to be one of Javonte or Sanders in a committee with Jaden Blue. And Blue is going to be like an average pick. And then either Javonte is going to be an average pick or Miles Sanders is going to be a pretty good pick. And I think that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, that's fair. I've just spent a lot of time kind of thinking about the Dallas backfield, and it does. I mean, the Blue thing scares me because I'm having trouble getting excited about him because, like you said, I think he's kind of like Naheem Hines-esque.
Did you read that Schottenheimer quote I posted yesterday?
Where?
Or on
No.
Sunday?
No.
Basically, I just thought it was really interesting. Obviously, he mentioned Javonte and Miles Sanders as like the quote unquote like starters or whatever. I thought the interesting thing was that he also mentioned Phil Maffa and Jaden Blue like
Correct.
at the same level, which
Yeah.
someone in
not
the
good.
responses was like, "Oh, did we learn anything from this? This is exactly what you'd expect a coach to say." The amount of times I've heard a coach mention the round 7 running back, I mean, frankly, I actually don't really remember the last time. Like, we haven't gotten any LaQuint Allen quotes yet from Liam Cohen, right? But we've heard him talk about Tootin. That is a bad spot for Blue to be in my opinion.
Yeah, especially because like the thing that I struggle with Blue is like I wish he was Ollie Gordon, a player who I'm not that excited about, but is like a big early down guy. You know, like I've missed on the running back I didn't think was very good who rocketed up, right? Dameon Pierce, when he was really cheap, I didn't have enough. And then he was kind of in the range that Blue's going in, and I didn't have enough. And then he ends up, like in the 7th round, I think, as a rookie by the end of the summer, because it was just clear he was the starter, and was never honestly that bad of a pick at any point because he was the starter. And then Pacheco, I got a little bit, I learned a little bit, but I wasn't nearly aggressive enough on his rise. And he was actually better as a 2nd-year player, but clearly, that info was correct that he was going to be the dude. Blue, I feel like we're maybe like moving ahead of we're not getting the buzz, so it's like us anointing him, which is part of why it scares me. But but I am also worried that I don't want to do the same thing I did with those guys where I'm like, wow, this guy's not very good, so I'm not gonna take him. And then, like, could he be an 8th round, 7th round value? Like, sure, yeah. I mean, this backfield's wide open. These guys he's competing with suck. So I'm kind of like, I'm just really torn on what to do with Blue, because I think we've gotten they're pretty far out over our skis, but the opportunity is also there.
So there's another thing I need to mention. 2 things, actually. The other is that Schottenheimer clearly loves Hunter Lupke. He Lupke in this group.
And Turpin is going to get some like Patterson-esque stuff. I know he's much smaller, but
The bigger issue, though, in my head is because I think we all kind of agree Blue is like sort of this Nyheim Hines-y passing down back. Well, Miles Sanders last year for the Panthers, that was his role.
That's Javonte too. Javonte's a pass blocker, big time.
Look, you guys don't want to hear it. No one wants to hear it. Javonte Williams is getting 16 touches week 1 for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, is he going to do anything?
No, I don't
with him. I don't
know.
Opening night.
Like I have no dispute to that. I guarantee you, like when I'm writing the Hitchhiker's Guide in season, that the Tuesday morning after week 1, I will write Javonte Williams played 57% of the snaps and handled 62% of the touches. Unfortunately, he broke 0 tackles and had 3.1 yards per touch. Like that will be what is like I'm writing on that.
And Hunter Lupke got the lone goal line touch out of the Dallas backfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to try.
I was going to healthy and active, but actually, if you think about how bad Javonte is, there's reason for optimism. Like that.
I was going to try a Davis. Javonte Williams, 16 for 61 and 2 in a 34-19 opening night loss to Philadelphia, now going in the 8th round at the FFPC Friday.
Oh, what, dude? FFPC Boomers, if they saw 2 touchdowns from Javonte, 4th round. Immediately.
Fourth round. Jacksonville, Chicago, San Francisco, the others. Jacob, I'll leave it to you because you didn't have Dallas on your list, like you said. The Bears, what do you want to find out?
I mean, the Bears are like fascinating because we have no idea what's going to happen with any of their pass catchers. They have, essentially 5 pass catchers for 4 spots, and someone's being left without a chair. And everybody, like the underdog ADP would tell you it's Cole Kmet, but I don't think anyone would actually be surprised if we show up in week 1 and Cole Kmet plays 64% of the snaps. And so I think there's also like this fun thing where everyone there is very interesting, but also no one there is like provably awesome. We have like a good, but not elite DJ Moore, who's coming off a disappointing year and is going to be 29. We got like a mystery box year 2 player in Rome and 2 rookies. And a quarterback who could be anywhere from one of the best in the NFL to a complete bust. And no one really knows. And then you get this running back room.
And Ben Johnson's a hard ass now? I thought he was too soft to coach.
Right. And then you have this running back room between 2 guys that no one likes, but everyone like kind of agrees that like, if these are the only 2 guys, one of them's got to be like an awesome pick, but they might sign J.K. Dobbins at any moment or trade for someone. Like it's fascinating. If I could know the outcome of any team, I think I would choose the Chicago Bears because there's just such a wide range of outcomes. And I don't think like the Jaguars, to me, because I'm a big Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence slappy, my view is like Thomas is awesome, and there's also going to be a big winner in the backfield. And I would love to know if Hunter's going to be awesome, but I'm like, some people are going to win big. I actually think with the Bears, like all options are possible. I think like almost everyone could win. I think everyone could lose. I think there could be like a couple of big winners and a few big losers. Like it feels like every single element of this offense is on a range of outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if the thing that's cool about the Bears is that or that's really interesting about the Bears is like a lot of teams, if you just told me like the snap rates, right? Like route percentage, or just like, give me the snap shares of every starter, I wouldn't learn like that much. You know, even with the Cowboys, like I'd learn something, but still be like, I don't know if Javonte was a good pick, you know, because the snaps aren't enough. The Bears, like if Swift just plays, he's a good pick. You know, like my concern is that he just doesn't play because he's bad enough to get benched for Roschon. But like, if you tell me he's the dude, if you tell me like which of these receivers is out there like running, you know, the full rate of snap, like someone in this, I think there's going to be winners in this offense, like in a big way. It's a Ben Johnson offense. Someone's going to come out of this at these prices and be a pretty awesome pick. But there's just a lot of guys.
I just wanted to say, like, for all the time and energy we put into trying to read coaches' minds and through the offseason, DeAndre Swift has been somebody where so much of the discourse has been about whether his coaches like him. Remember with Deuce Staley and just sort of what he means to coaches. And this coach, who is all that, goes there, and they do not draft anybody to come in over the top. We would have assumed even a day 2 pick would come in over the top of DeAndre Swift, I think. And that did not happen at all. So that probably says something good about Johnson and Swift.
But then they wanted to, right? Because the report was they were like super tilted that Travion Henderson got sniped from them.
But then how do you not end up at one of these 15 other guys in the course of it?
Because running backs don't matter, and they're going to throw the rock around the yard is the real answer.
But the thing so if you look at Swift's stuff as a rusher, he is bad and kind of getting worse. He had the worst success rate in the league last year, like by pretty decent margin. And he's had a bad success rate like every year. Like this dude he's just constantly looking for the boom bust runs, but it's just like a bunch of bust. You know, he doesn't do it frequently enough. So he just the coaches lose faith in him.
He's also not that explosive anymore. Like
he's not that explosive.
Lions, like he used to have like big hits. Whereas I remember with the Eagles, which is the year that I actually had a lot of Swift. And I remember like he would break through the line and I'd be like, oh, we're getting it. And then he would get like tackled after 16 yards and be like,
Yep. But he's okay as a receiver. That's like where I do think like if they're going to, I think I can win the bet on Swift at this price if he just like holds on for dear life as a runner and is like a pretty good receiving back, which, you know, like you look at the receiver rating ESPN last year, he was running back 8. You know, he was right behind Rachaad White. It's sort of like it's the Rachaad White bet from a couple years ago. There's no from his second year when there wasn't a Bucky. Like that's like kind of what it reminds me of, where it's like we have now pretty good evidence this guy's not a good runner. But
how many people know that DeAndre Swift's best ever yards season was last year? Do you think anyone even realizes that?
That actually doesn't surprise me because it was, I think, the healthiest he's ever been.
It was the only season he's ever played every game. Yeah.
The Bears just did not do anything about it. You know, whether the question of whether he's good or not is, I think, been long established, but the Bears are okay, I think, with DeAndre Swift.
I think it's a measure of growth for me that I'm not trying to make Kyle Monangai happen. But I'm just like, you know what? I think I'm good. I'm good on Monangai, you know.
There was someone in our comments who said, I think Kyle Monangai gets the first shot at early downs, which is like
that is just like you've gone so far into this Slapiverse that you need to come all the way back around again. There's no helping the Monangai people, really. There's probably no helping the Jaden Blue people either.
I mean, the thing with Swift which is the difference between like Javonte and Swift for me, is that Swift is bad, but he is fantasy friendly. So I've dipped my toe into the Swift pool.
He's also a little explosive.
I mean,
he's not explosive enough to make up for his inconsistency, but he's explosive.
Right. He is explosive, and he's a good pass catcher. And he has enough size that he can not like be like a true workhorse, but he can be like a quasi workhorse, totally, kind of like somewhere in between. So it's like if a team like this is kind of why I've always been a little 1 foot in, 1 foot out with Swift. It's like, do I think it's a smart way to build an NFL running back room to make Swift your clear lead back? No. But if you do, can he score a decent amount of fantasy points? Yes. Whereas Javonte, I think, has reached a point where he just is incapable of having like more than 3.5 yards per carry. So I kind of just don't really even care how many touches he gets loaded up with because he's just going to be so inefficient.
Swift is what, Pat? Pick 80? Like, it's not too costly.
Yeah, he's pick 82.
Yeah.
And I think he's like he's a target there. I
Yep.
do. I mean, he's not like I'm dropping everything to get Swift, but if you need any kind of running back help, the thing with Swift is like, yeah, he has a ceiling. Swift has a ceiling. He's in an offense that we're excited about. They could take a big step forward. He could be the clear 1A, maybe even a clear like lead back. He's not going to be a true workhorse, but to Jacob's point, he can handle enough of it, and he's the receiving guy, and he can hit long runs. So I think he's got a weekly spike week ceiling as well. You're just hoping he has the long runs on the right week. It's not a fun pick, but I do think he makes sense. And I've kind of gone and reviewed some of these grosser picks. Like I was looking at Pollard yesterday, and I was like, yeah, maybe we're a bit hot there. Like the efficiency. He's not really been a good receiver in recent seasons. He's got a receiving back that he's sharing with a bit. And, so I'm like, Swift or Pollard? I'm Swift. After looking at it more yesterday, I'm Swift. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Pollard. I would definitely be Pollard.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's there.
Just because I just think he's a lot better. Like I could see Swift still getting I could see Swift getting replaced by like basically anyone, because I think he just exists at the pleasure of his coaches. Pollard,
receiving stuff for me. Yeah,
he does have a contract too.
Pollard could catch some passes too. I mean, they don't really have anyone out there outside of
Spears. I mean, Spears can
be able to catch passes.
Spears,
Spears is fine.
That's like his thing. He was running back 5 in receiver rating last year. Like Pollard was dead last. There's like I'm just viewing.
Know that.
Yeah, Pollard I think is more. I was like before literally yesterday I was Pollard over Spears, but I was just like digging into it more. And I'm like, I think this is kind of a 2-down guy we're like betting on him to get loaded up with touches again like he did last year. We're betting on the offense to be better with Cam Ward. It's fine, but also like. I don't think he's like as far as the 3-down type of upside bet goes, it's really thin with Spears there, and with how good he's been, and specifically not good he's been as a receiver. So I kind of flipped it. But to the point of Swift losing his job to anybody, I mean, Roschon Johnson, I started kind of lukewarm on. I do think is a really strong pick. Very, really good, Jamal Williams type of, like just gets there on touchdowns type of upside with him. He's big. Yeah. He's
and he can play on pass downs. He's a good
he can play on pass. But you talk about like where does Swift suck the most? Consistency. Like
right, but also the right pass hole.
Well, sure.
He's a massive liability in pass
in a few ways.
Like he's like one of the worst pass protecting running backs I've ever seen.
That's Roschon Johnson's music, brother. Roschon ain't
that's why when he's a good pass catcher, but when he was in Detroit with Ben Johnson, he lost third downs to Justin Jackson because he can't pass.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Our king.
That's true.
Our king, Justin Jackson.
It's also funny, like one of one in the chat says, find someone that hates you like Jacob hates DeAndre Swift. People don't know this, but I have been solidly above market on DeAndre Swift in best ball exposure each of the last 2 years for the reasons I'm saying, which is like, despite hating him as a player, I acknowledge the fantasy appeal.
That's been kind of a theme today. Talking pro or con about a player at length, and then at the end, the reveal is I actually have the opposite share percentage than you think from what I've just been saying.
Well, Swift is a guy who used to, like the Swift profile used to cost you a 5th-round pick, and we would gleefully fade it. And I'm like annoyed that I don't get to do that I have to like take him now in the 80s. It sucks. But the way I'm kind of getting over it is I'm also taking Roschon Johnson, who, to your point, I mean, I'm underselling his ability to be kind of a high value touch king. He could be out there on 3rd downs and all short yardage, which seems pretty good. And I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know for a fact he's the RB2, but I'm willing to bet that he has a moat between himself and Kyle Monungai. That doesn't seem crazy. And then it's like I'm fading J.K. Dobbins signing, but wouldn't that have happened by now?
Perhaps. Let's jump to last call here if we can. We'll talk about obviously these other running back situations all summer. There is the grid. It's been rough for Jakob in recent weeks. He's been, scrambling to come up with a plan B after I take his guys. If you want, Jakob, lead us off.
I don't have anyone fun this week, but I will, I guess. I will take Tutu Atwell, who's been a guy that I've been mixing in. I love the double dome game, the Horny Phoenix in week 17. Just like I think it's a pretty decent chance he's just running, 60 to 70% of the routes this year based on the money he got, based on they don't really have an obvious, to me, a 3 wide receiver set, excuse me, with Whittington, Adams, and Puka feels kind of slow. So I would want to involve Tutu in that instead. And he's going to have a fantasy favorable role, especially a best ball favorable role. So he's like kind of a fun, him and De'Ami Brown are like guys where if I have too many rookies in my wide receiver room and I want someone who's going to get routes, I click him a decent chunk. So I'll add him today.
Returns too. I want to eventually get into a conversation with you guys about returns because the league is making more moves toward hoping to get more big plays out of that department.
I like I take Atwell quite a bit. I've got a giga slappy one.
Oh, hell yeah.
Jermaine Burton.
Wow.
Nice.
Joe Burrow.
He's back. After I called him Fantasy Pros Jeff, he's gotten back to his old ways.
Joe Burrow, like specifically.
Is Jeff real? Do we have to apologize to Jeff?
No,
now,
I'm sure that there is.
But that guy would be named
Fantasy Pros named Jeff.
Okay.
And so I apologize if there is a person named Jeff who works at Fantasy Pros. I don't know that to be true. I just thought of what's the most generic and offensive name.
You're making it worse for Jeff now.
Seem like it is getting worse, I think.
Sorry to call you out, Jeff, but you just sound generic as fuck.
Now all Jeffs are offended. Not just Fantasy Pros Jeffs, but all Jeffs.
Yeah, Burrow specifically was like Jermaine Burton. He's in meetings, he's doing a good job, yada yada. So, and it allows me to fade who I think is probably the worst late round click on the board, Andre Yoshivas.
Yoshivas, yeah. Okay, Pat.
I don't see.
So as we know, zeros can be kind of tough in Best Ball Mania, but this game's early. We haven't done the analysis. There's no Leone's manifesto on last call.
No.
So
let me get on him about that.
I can swing for the fences here and take some zeros. I'm going to go ahead and take Taj Brooks.
Nice.
Good game theory pick because he will probably not be eligible for this game if something breaks his way.
If something breaks his way, he'll rise. You guys will be snapping him up because I never make these picks until the end of the show. You guys will be early to make it before I even think of him. So I'm taking him now because I do think he has a lot of potential to make noise this summer.
Oh my God, Pat Bryant used to be in the 200s. Oh,
yeah,
that was right after the draft. I see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Getting it in good.
We didn't get to this team on Pat's list, but I'm going to take Blake Corum, who's down at 202.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, insanely.
Nice work, Mike.
Just in case, right? Just in case.
That's a great one.
I like Hunter more, but yeah. Okay.
We're going head to head on that one. I got Hunter.
Yes.
You got Corum.
I don't know that you are like in an injury. Wouldn't it be a committee of Corum and Hunter?
That's true.
We don't know, right? I mean, even when we're talking about Dallas, all these quotes are based on expectations and what coaches have in mind, but they haven't seen them on the field yet. So once they get on the field, like not just minicamp, but July, August, a lot, of course, can change. You guys know.
Yeah, specifically, J.K. Dobbins can get signed. Once
There's
they
one
see
thing
what they actually have.
There's one thing. Davis, where are you off to?
Is he going to sign somewhere?
I am.
What's going on with that? He was fine last year. He had 900
it's
yards.
like
Why is he
post-
not on a team?
He has to get past this weird Chargers tag, and then I think he can sign wherever.
No, the tag brings him back to the Chargers, I thought.
Yeah, doesn't he
but
have to sign
it
before
expires. But
Yeah.
it expires. I think he's gonna sign. J.K. Dobbins is gonna sign.
I thought it expires with him going back to the chart. I thought the expiration is what makes him be a Charger.
Is that the same thing that Elijah Moore had with the Browns?
Yes,
Davis,
yes.
and then the Bills signed him away. So I think that's mid-June.
Yeah,
that
correct.
deadline.
I have to go do the Swolecast, so I will see all of you in 5 minutes over there later.
Thank you. Jacob, what's going on with you this week?
I think I'm going to get back in the writing chair. I've been sort of resting on ranks and the massive stream of post-draft content, but I got some things kicking around. I'm definitely going to do a piece soon that is kind of similar to what we talked about today, where I'm just going to highlight what I think are the most high variance backfields. So we'll get a lot of Jaguars talk, a lot of Cowboys talk,
Good.
Some Bears talk. That'll be out probably within a week.
Pat?
I have a draft plan piece coming out this week.
Nice.
It got the first draft finished last night, so just kind of going round by round and thinking through like what can I get later is kind of like the little simple framework for trying to stay structurally minded in the current ADP environment, which really is shaking some things up. Where is the dead zone now? It's kind of the dead zone is like attached to specific running backs rather than being like a true pocket. But the quarterback window seems very alive and well. So I kind of go through all of that. I'm going to be on with JJ Zacharyson in about an hour. So check that out. We're going to be talking DraftKings, best ball, and have a stream. I'll be streaming with Zach and Shady at some point, talking through some of the research that we've been working on. Hopefully that'll be this week. But yeah, Legendary Upside. And check out the Sidekick at legendaryupside.com/sidekick for dynamic rankings.
Today on WGR, apparently, from what I'm reading, I'll be talking about today's news with the Bills, which is a Joey Bosa calf injury out indefinitely. Who could have predicted? James Cook is not present for their mandatory work this week. And when I'm not hosting that show on the Odyssey app, 3 to 7 weekdays Eastern time, I'm going to continue to be DMing my Canadian friend every time I go across the border, which this week takes me to Guelph for another box lacrosse tournament. It's quite a weekend last weekend. Never came closer to getting into it with a ref, which is, you never want to do that. I didn't, but I've never been more tempted from one of the games I saw in the Six Nations this weekend. Ask me about it at the bar. Okay. Thanks for watching and listening. ADP Chasing signing off. We'll see you next week.